Hello and welcome. We are surrounded by technology every single day. But how often do we really stop and think about what's going on under the hood? Well, today we're going to do just that. We're going to peel back the layers and get to the absolute core of computer systems, from the phone in your pocket to the massive machines that power, well, everything. All right, let's dive in.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the absolute fundamentals. What even is a computer, really? Then we'll look at the stuff we use every day, our personal tech. After that, we'll pull back the curtain on the heavy-duty machines that businesses and organizations depend on. And finally, we'll zoom out and explore the incredible, world-changing impact these systems have had on all of us.
All right, first things first. Let's get our really clear definition down. When we say the word computer, what are we actually talking about? Well, it all boils down to one simple but incredibly powerful process. At its very heart, this is all a computer does. It takes in raw, unorganized facts, that's the data, and it chews on it, processes it, and spits out something that's actually useful and makes sense to us. That's the information. So you can think of it like a translator, turning this ocean of numbers and inputs into a picture we can actually understand. Now here's where it gets really interesting. It's about how these machines think. See, every modern computer you've ever touched is digital. It sees the entire universe in just two states, zeros and ones, on and off. This binary system is what makes them so incredibly precise. But before digital took over, we had analog computers. Think of a slide rule or the needle on a speedometer. They measured things on a continuous flowing scale. They were based on physical quantities like voltage, which meant they were powerful for their time, but way less precise than the digital beasts we have today.
Okay, so let's see how that basic idea, data into information, scales up into the devices we know and, let's be honest, love. This is the tech we interact with every single day, from our desks to the palms of our hands.
The classic desktop. For decades, this was the king. It's the workhorse that sits on or under your desk, right? It's powerful, it's versatile, and it can handle pretty much anything you throw at it, from just writing emails and browsing the web to really intense stuff like graphic design or high-end gaming.
Now, imagine taking a regular desktop and just putting it on steroids. That's pretty much a workstation. These are ultra-high-performance machines built for a very specific, very demanding purpose. We're talking about an engineer designing a bridge, a scientist running a complex simulation, or a Hollywood animator rendering the next big blockbuster. They need a ton of power, and that's exactly what a workstation delivers.
But, of course, we don't always want to be chained to a desk. The magic of the notebook computer was figuring out how to cram all that desktop power into something you could actually carry around. Suddenly you had a machine that was just as mighty as its bigger cousin, but you could take it anywhere. And you could even snap it into a docking station at the office to get that full multi-monitor desktop experience back, the best of both worlds.
And the march of portability didn't stop there. Next came the tablet, which totally changed the game by, for the most part, ditching the physical keyboard and mouse. Instead, you interact directly with a touchscreen, using your fingers or a special pen. They run specialized software that makes them perfect for things like drawing, taking notes in class, or just kicking back on the couch and watching a movie.
Before we had a full computer in our pockets, we had these little guys, the PDA, or Personal Digital Assistant. These were super focused devices. Their main job wasn't to browse the web or play games. It was to keep your life organized. Your contacts, your calendar, a place to jot down a quick note, that was their bread and butter. And the killer feature was that they would sync all that information back to your main desktop computer. And that, of course, brings us to the device that truly changed everything. The smartphone was a brilliant mashup. It took the communication power of a cell phone, fused it with the organizational brain of a PDA, and then, the most important part, it connected it all to the internet. All of a sudden, you had this incredibly powerful, always-online computer right in your pocket. The age of apps had begun. Okay, so we've covered the personal tech. Now let's go behind the curtain and look at the huge computers that run our world from behind the scenes. These are the machines that power everything from your Amazon order to the entire global financial system.
So the backbone of most businesses is the network server. The best way to think about it is as the central hub, or maybe the librarian, for an entire network. It's the one powerful computer that everybody else connects to. It manages access to shared files, to printers, to the internet. And when a company gets really, really big, they string thousands of these together into what we call a server farm or a data center.
For the really huge players, we're talking banks, airlines, insurance companies, you need a totally different kind of animal. You need a mainframe. These are giant, incredibly reliable computers designed to do one thing really well: process massive numbers of transactions for thousands of users all at the exact same time. People wouldn't even use a full computer to connect. They'd use what's called a terminal, basically just a screen and keyboard that relied on the mainframe's central brain power.
So, what if you're too big for a simple server, but you're not quite at the scale of needing a giant mainframe? Well, that's where the mini computer, or what we'd call a mid-range system, used to fit in. It was the perfect middle ground, offering enough power to support hundreds of users, making it the right choice for smaller companies or individual departments within a large one.
And then, at the very, very top of the computing food chain, you have supercomputers. These are, without a doubt, the most powerful machines humans have ever built. We're talking about systems that can perform trillions of calculations every single second. You find these in major research labs where they're used to tackle the biggest, hairiest problems imaginable, like forecasting weather, doing genetic research, or simulating the physics of a star.
So, we've seen the hardware, right? From the tiniest phone to the biggest supercomputer. Now we get to the final, and maybe the most important part of the story. What has all of this technology actually done to our world?
Now that is a bold statement, but honestly, it's pretty hard to argue with. You could make the case that more than the printing press, more than the automobile, the computer has fundamentally reshaped almost every single part of human life. It's changed how we work, how we play, how we talk to each other, reaching into every corner of society.
So why? Why are they so critical? Well, it all goes back to that first definition we talked about. Computers provide information. And in our modern world, information is the name of the game. It is the lifeblood of our economy, our culture, our society. And frankly, the biggest challenge we face now is just figuring out how to manage the unbelievable flood of information that these machines have unlocked for us.
And just look at how deeply they're woven into our home lives. I mean, this chart shows a pretty perfect balance across the core parts of our lives, doesn't it? We use them for work and business, for entertainment, like streaming movies and music, for staying in touch with friends and family, and for learning new things. They're not just a tool for one specific task anymore. They're a tool for, well, for everything.
And this ripple effect is just everywhere. In schools, knowing how to use a computer became just as fundamental as reading or writing. For industry, it meant designing way better products with computer-aided design, or CAD, and automating entire factory floors. And of course, government and healthcare were completely transformed, using computers to manage everything from census data to patient records, leading to safer and more effective treatments.
And here's a little fun fact for you. Governments were actually the very first major users of computers. The sheer need to manage massive amounts of data for things like the census and military logistics was one of the primary drivers behind the earliest developments in computing.
And that really brings us to our closing thought. We have built these incredible, world-changing machines that can process data and give us information on a scale that was once unimaginable. There's no doubt they've reshaped our world. So the question that's left for us isn't really about the technology itself anymore, it's about what we do with it. We have access to all this information, but can we, as a society, manage it wisely?